Namaskar students, how are you all? Hopefully you all are keeping well. Now I have started with demand. So just to give a recapitulation of whatever we have studied. Demand, exactly, we were comparing this word with two other different words, that is want and desire. Now, what is it? Generally, what happens, we use these three words interchangeably with demand. I mean, these three words are used interchangeably. But there is a difference between desire, want, and demand. Desire is merely a wish. Want, along with wish, comes your ability. And when you talk about demand, along with wish and ability, what comes in is the price and the time. So this is what is demand. Then I told you about the types of demand. The demand are of two types, that is individual and market demand. And then I was explaining you the determinants, that is the factors affecting the individual demand. And I explained you the first three factors. So today we are going to continue with the factors or the determinants of individual, the remaining individual factors as well as the determinants of market demand. So as we can see, the meaning of demand, which I already explained you yesterday, it means the quantity of a commodity which the consumers are willing and able to purchase at a given price and during a given period of time. The types of demand, which I already explained yesterday, individual and market. My individual, that is if I am demanding anything, that is individual demand. If all together we all are demanding something, that becomes a market demand. Also, I explained you yesterday these three determinants of individual demand, that is price of the given commodity, price of substitute good, and price of complementary goods, taking examples. Now today we will discuss the another three determinants of individual demand. The first one, that is actually we have discussed three, so this is the fourth one. Income of the consumer, taste and preferences of the consumer, and future expectation of rise in the prices. So we are going to discuss income of the consumer. Now income, generally students, in general parlance, what do we say? That as the income of the consumer rises, their demand also rises. But this can be understood with the help of two types of goods. Those are normal goods and inferior goods. Now what are they? How do we define them? Normal goods are those goods whose demand increases with increase in income. So normal goods are those goods whose demand increases with increase in income. Inferior goods are those goods whose demand increases with fall in income, and vice versa. That means the meaning of normal and inferior good is explained in context or in relation to demand. Now let us better understand the meaning by taking examples. Now suppose children, if I take an example of a black and white TV and a color television. So the color television is an example of normal good and the black and white television is an example of inferior good. Toned milk and full cream milk. Toned milk is an example of inferior good and full cream milk is an example of normal goods. That means now it is clear to you, the goods which are highly priced are normal goods and the goods which are of inferior quality or low priced are known as inferior goods. In other words, I can say it this way. Now, if the income of the consumer rises, so the demand of normal good will rise, because the consumer is in a position to purchase a good which is heavily priced. And if the income of the consumer falls, so the demand of normal good will also fall. That means income of the consumer and demand of normal good establishes direct relationship. Next, inferior good, in this case, there is an inverse relationship. If the income of the consumer rises, the demand of inferior good falls. If the income of the consumer falls, the demand of inferior good rises. So, for example, like I have taken an example of toned milk and full cream milk. So, the demand of full cream milk will rise when the income of the consumer will rise, which is an example of normal good. But the demand of toned milk will rise if the income of the consumer falls. So hence we say that income of the consumer and demand of normal good establishes direct relationship, and income of the consumer and demand of inferior good establishes inverse relationship. Then the next determinant, taste and preferences of the consumer. Now, if any good which is of my taste and preference, no matter whatever the rise in the prices are, I am going to purchase that good. Let's take an example to understand this. Every morning, I drink a cup of tea. So that is my taste. That is my preference. So even if the prices of tea rises, I will not switch to its substitute. That is coffee. Still, I'm going to consume tea, no matter whatever the rise in the prices are. Similarly, students, even if you talk about fashion related goods here, so fashion related goods are of your preference. Now, if somebody is selling you maybe an attire or an outfit which is outdated, which is not in fashion anymore, so will you demand that even at a lower price? No, you are not going to. So you will be ready to pay more for fashion related goods. This can also be known as an exception to the law of demand. So the goods which are of your taste and preferences, no matter, you are going to demand them even at rise in prices. And if the goods are not of your taste and preferences, even if their price falls, you are not going to demand them. The last determinant of individual demand is future expectation of rise in the prices. Now, if you expect, suppose that maybe probably in future, the price of a particular commodity is going to rise manifold. So in the present, you will be demanding, even at rising prices, you will demand that good more. Let's take an example to understand this. Suppose you come to know that today at midnight, the prices of petrol and diesel is going to rise by 20 rupees per liter. So what do you do at present? Already the prices of petrol and diesel are never less. They are already at rising prices. So at present, you rush to the petrol pump and you get your tanks filled. Isn't it? Many of the people in the world, they do this. So that means if you are expecting in future that the prices are going to rise, so in the present, even at rising prices, you are going to demand more. So these are the determinants of individual demand. Now quickly I'm going to discuss the determinants of market demand as well. There are three determinants of market demand: size and composition of population, the first one. Now, if the size of population is more, so the market demand will be more. If the size is small, the demand will be less. So it is very clear. But what do we understand by composition of population? Composition means the population comprises of what categories? Maybe if we say in the size of the population, the number of infants, that is the small children, are more. So in that case, the infant goods will be more in demand, like diapers and toys and all these. If the female ratio is more in the size of population, so the cosmetic, toiletries, the makeup goods will be more in demand. So it all depends upon the market demand depends upon the size and composition of population. Then comes season and weather. The goods which are of favorable season, those are demanded more at that particular season and less when they are not in season. Like presently, summers have already approached. So are we going to demand presently umbrellas and raincoats or the woolen cloths? No, because those are not in season presently, not required. Right? We will be demanding more of cotton cloths presently. So the demand also depends upon the season and weather. The last point is distribution of income. Now, if there is the distribution of income can be equitable and inequitable. If there is equal distribution of income, so the demand will rise. But if there is unequal distribution of income, so the demand will fall. That means if rich are getting richer and poor are getting poorer, so the demand, market demand will fall. But if there is equitable distribution of income, the market demand will rise. So these all are the determinants related to individual and market demand. One more thing I want to make it very clear, students, is that if a question comes to you that explain any 5 determinants of market demand, so all the determinants of individual demand are also the part of determinants of market demand. That means in totality, the determinants of market demand which you studied are 6 and 3, that is 9 in number. That means the individual determinants are also the determinants of market demand, but the market demand are never the determinants of individual demand. Take care of this. Thank you so much.